All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We are going to treat your mind exactly like a computer system, and we're going to hand you the ultimate operational manual for emotional sovereignty. We're drawing our framework today from a fascinating concept called the sovereign node, algorithmic stoicism, and internal control. So, if you've ever felt totally overwhelmed by just the sheer chaos of the world around you, or maybe you find yourself constantly frustrated by how other people behave, stick around, because this is exactly the mental upgrade you need.
Think about it for a second. Are you bleeding your finite cognitive energy trying to rewrite a code base you literally don't have access to? You know, that totally exhausting feeling of trying to control the world, trying to control other people, right? We've all been there. Well, today we are going to troubleshoot that massive energetic waste. We're going to stop crashing your internal system by trying to hack external variables, and instead we're going to look inward at what you actually control.
Let's kick things off with Part 1, the thermodynamics of control. We're going to take a look at the universe through a totally different paradigm of variable control and energy allocation.
Consider the absolute fundamental difference between the external sinkhole, where frankly you have zero root access, and your own localized internal system, where you hold total absolute control. Over on one side, you've got the outside world. It's a highly chaotic system governed by millions of independent, totally unpredictable variables. We're talking market forces, sudden cosmic randomness, and let's be real, the most chaotic element of all, other people's egos. Trying to fix all of that requires this huge, unsustainable input of emotional energy, and it gives you a return on investment of basically zero. But on the other side, that's your psyche. A single, closed, systemic node containing your perceptions, your beliefs, and your responses.
And that leads us to this crucial takeaway. It's practically a mathematical law of physics at this point. Yes, rewriting your own internal code is tough, but its difficulty is infinitely less than trying to change external reality. Sure, changing your own disposition means hacking through decades of evolutionary programming and deep psychological conditioning. It's not exactly a walk in the park. But here's the secret. It is a localized problem, and you actually possess direct root access to the machine. Rewriting your own perception changes the system's entire output instantly, without you ever needing to touch a single external variable.
Moving right along to Part 2, the reality filtering algorithm. What's really fascinating here is how this takes ancient Stoic philosophy from guys like Epictetus and translates it into this brutal, totally foolproof operational manual.
Let's see how this builds a super precise three-stage algorithmic decision tree for navigating literally any point of friction in your life. Think of this as a secular, incredibly modern translation of the classic dichotomy of control. When you hit a wall or face an obstacle, you just run it through these three distinct stages: active execution, radical acceptance, or decoupling the vector. Let's break these down one by one.
Step 1 is active execution. If you can actually change the variable, do not waste a single second of your time wishing it were different. Just execute and optimize your environment. If a situation is within your sphere of influence, meaning your unique skills, your capital, or your direct physical action can actually alter it, you don't complain and you definitely don't hesitate. You step up and aggressively take charge of the environment.
But, what if you literally can't change it? Well, that brings us to Step 2, radical acceptance. If the variable is completely outside your control, like massive macroeconomic shifts, or a past mistake you just can't undo, or maybe the deeply ingrained toxic personality of a coworker, you have to realize that resistance is a profoundly inefficient use of your cellular energy. You must accept that data point as a hard, unyielding law of physics. I mean, you wouldn't waste energy getting mad at gravity, would you? Of course not. You simply adapt your strategy around it rather than desperately wishing it were different.
Now, what if the situation is just way too toxic to simply accept? That's when you have to execute Step 3 and kill your attachment. Attachment is really just that psychological hook you throw into an external object, expecting it to somehow give you validation, or safety, or happiness. If a business partnership, a social media metric, or some specific expectation is actively destroying your peace of mind, you have got to pull that hook back.
0. That is your target. You must declare that external asset completely 100% irrelevant to your internal scorecard. Because the exact moment your attachment drops to absolute 0, that external object completely loses its power to manipulate your neurochemistry. It ceases to matter and, boom, you instantly regain your sovereignty.
So how do we practically wire this into our brains on a daily basis? That brings us to Part 3, the daily diagnostic protocol. Let's look at how to catch those moments of frustration in real time.
The absolute second, and I mean the literal second, you feel a spike of resentment, irritation, or anger, you need to run this mental diagnostic test. Ask yourself, do I actually have the administrative rights to change what's annoying me right now? Do I have root access? Because that emotional spike you're feeling, it's just a warning light flashing on your mental dashboard. It's telling you that you are currently trying to force an external, uncontrollable variable to bend to your will.
Now, if the answer is no, you immediately initiate the mental calibration loop. First up, isolate the target. What exactly are you wishing would change right now? Next, acknowledge the cold, hard truth. You do not have root access here. And finally, execute the pivot. Turn the camera entirely back onto your own hardware. Ask yourself how you can alter your perception of this data point, or maybe sever your attachment to it entirely so that your internal baseline remains completely undisturbed.
And by doing this consistently, you completely cease to be this reactive machine that just gets buffeted around by the outside world. Instead, you become a sovereign system that dictates its own baseline. You stop letting all that chaos raging outside your perimeter dictate how you feel on the inside. You become fully autonomous, fully self-contained.
So as we wrap up this explainer, and you go about rebooting your mindset today, I want to leave you with one final, pretty powerful question to chew on. Will you stay a reactive machine? Or are you finally going to take back your root access? Are you really going to let an external variable dictate your internal climate today? The choice and the control is entirely yours.